Hi guys, Delancey here. It's currently Friday afternoon. I just got off work and I am dedicating the rest of my evening to studying Korean. I want to show you how I do my homework that my Korean tutor assigns me on a weekly basis. So to give you some background, I met my tutor through iTalki.com. I am not sponsored by them at all. I just love that website. I love that service. I've been with them for years. And whenever I have friends who are picking up language learning, whether it's Korean or some other language, I always recommend them because I've had nothing but a positive experience. And in fact, I have been with this same Korean tutor for years now at this point. So today, in this case, I am heading to the gym with Dan, and after the gym, I'm coming back home. I'm gonna rinse off, take a quick shower, get in my pajamas, get all nice and comfy, have something good to eat, and then I'm gonna sit down at my desk and jump into my homework. Let's jump on to italki.com. I get my homework there via a message thread that I have with my tutor. And then, as I said before, I talk with my tutor on a weekly basis at this point in time, and we'll chat for 30 minutes. Every tutor is going to be different. The homework that they give is different. How they run their classes is different. So just keep that in mind. This is how I do my homework. This is what I'm working with on a weekly basis. So anyways, we're gonna go ahead and sign in. Okay, so here is the Google Doc that my tutor and I share. And my Google Doc is split up into 4 sections. So this first page, you can see she notated Korean dramas and YouTube. These are topics that her and I love to talk about on a regular basis. And I think she makes note of that even for herself, that that's a topic we can always touch on every week. And right here you can see 문법, that means grammar. Now I have met with her 4 weeks in a row now at this point, and every week, once we pass it, she goes ahead and archives the new grammar structure that she taught me into this little table here, which is super helpful because it's a way for me to review old grammar structures from weeks past. And it's also helpful because what I like to do is right before I have my next tutoring class with her, I will jump onto this table, review the little grammar structures, and try to find ways to implement them into my conversation with her in upcoming classes, which I think she likes. I think that's really the point of introducing these new grammar structures to me, is that I get more comfortable with adding them into my conversation so I can better express myself. Then we scroll down to page 2. This is section 2. This is where if I have a question for my tutor during our conversation and she doesn't have enough time to really go in depth with me, since we're only chatting for 30 minutes, she will make a note of that question and then she will jump onto this doc later and break it down for me so it's easier for me to understand. Sometimes putting it into writing makes it a lot easier for me to internalize whatever the vocab or grammar question is that I have. So recently I was really confused about 기분 and 느낌, the difference between the two. I knew they both meant feeling, but I would get crisscrossed all the time trying to figure out which word to use when. And she was able to break that down for me. This is super helpful. I was so grateful when she sent this over. I really appreciate that. And then we get into the third section. So this is really the bulk of my homework. This is what her and I, at my next tutoring session with her next week, we're going to sit down and go through this section of the Google Doc together. What she does is she pulls a bunch of vocabulary words from our last tutoring section, vocabulary words that I didn't know at the time. When I'm going along in my conversation with her and I get stuck on a word, I don't know what it is, or maybe I kind of know what the word is, but I'm getting confused, she'll make note of that and she'll provide me with anywhere from 1 to 5 vocabulary words for me to hopefully commit to memory. And then also in the sentence up in pink, she's asking me to write a sentence using that word. What she also does that she started doing recently is adding in one new grammar structure. Again, typically something that comes up in my last tutoring session with her that I had a hard time conversating around. And I so appreciate that. I love that she has at least one new grammar structure, because with this type of homework and meeting with her on a weekly basis, I'm finding that my Korean grammar is increasing exponentially faster than it was when I was just doing self-study through textbooks alone. And then if we scroll further down here, you're just going to see a bunch of Korean. And this is actually her transcribing our last conversation together. another thing I greatly appreciate that she does. I don't technically need to do anything with this. I am going to do something with it, and I will show you guys how I utilize this transcription, but it's just kind of a nice bonus that she adds to the Google Doc. Okay, so let's just get this party started. I'm going to go up to the crux of my homework for the week, and I am going to pull up a nifty little tool called papago.naver.com. This is my go-to tool for translating Korean into English and vice versa. I don't use any other translator, so Papago is my bread and butter, and it's my everything. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the vocabulary that she has given me. I'm going to make a little note for myself about what those translations are. And then from there, I'm going to start putting together sentences that are true to me too. I want to make sure that these are actual sentences that I would say in everyday life. I also want to make a note too that on my laptop keyboard, I did invest in a cover off of Amazon. I have a MacBook, and of course it's just the English keyboard. You can go on Amazon and buy MacBook keyboard compatible covers that have the Korean characters on them. I would highly recommend that when doing homework and practicing your typing in Korean. I will link the keyboard cover that I use down below for you guys. But just so you know, that's how I am typing in Korean on my computer right now. So yeah, some of these vocabulary words I already know off the top of my head because I remember it from our conversation. Other ones I gotta look up on Papago just to be sure. Okay, bear with me while I try to come up with some riveting sentences. So here are my first 4 sentences here, and I pretty much wrote them in the Google Doc. Another way that I do it is I will actually just write it in Papago, and I will watch it populate and translate in real time into English to make sure that I am doing my grammar correctly and using the right words. The translator is by no means a foolproof method to ensuring that I am writing this correctly, but it at least gets the job done, you know, broad brushstrokes to make sure I'm doing this right. So I'm going to throw this in here. And so I think it's scary to go outside when you live in a dangerous neighborhood. That's why I want to live in a safe neighborhood. I might highlight it here just to kind of make it pop out to show how I used it. Parts of this sentence could be wrong. I am by no means a Korean expert. I think if I feel like for the most part I got the sentence correct and I was able to express myself, then I'm just gonna move on. I love going to events, but I always have to come home at 10. I need to go to bed early. That's true. I feel like I'm spelling this wrong. So see, this is where the translator is kind of helpful, right? So I'm 돌아와. Mayhaps I'm spelling 돌아와 wrong. Mayhaps I am spelling that wrong. Ah, that's why I'm spelling it wrong. Okay, there we go. So we have our first 4 sentences donezo. All right. Now I am going to move on to these next grammar structures here. Here we go. Okay, so we are all set. We got all of my sentences and the bulk of my homework is pretty much complete for my tutor. Next up on the agenda, we're going to get a little fancy and do a little extra with my Korean tutoring Google Doc. I'm going to go through my entire transcribed conversation with my tutor, and I am really going to study all of the grammar that her and I covered. I'm also going to look at words that we use that maybe she didn't highlight as an important vocabulary word to include in my homework, but is still an important vocabulary word that maybe I would like to be able to use. She had 안전하다, to be safe, as one of my vocabulary words for the week. But another really important word that came up in our conversation that she just didn't highlight for my homework is 위험하다, 위험하다, to be dangerous. And this is definitely something I want to also learn. So what I would do is just highlight it. Like let's say vocab, we're going to do in yellow. These are vocabulary words that I want to be mindful of. And then I'm also going to highlight grammar structures that I find really important. A really great example here, I was talking about moving, 이사하다, and I kept saying things like if you move to Korea, like 한국에 이사하다, which she's telling me here in the transcription is wrong. We don't say we don't use with 이사하다. We actually use 우로. So you would say 한국으로 이사하다. That is the correct grammar for using that verb to move. So, and yeah, she has it here. 집으로 이사하다, to move to a house, to move to your home. So I am going to highlight this here in maybe a different color. Let's say grammar will do blue. And I am going to go through this entire conversation and do exactly that and really take my time with it and enjoy just the act of studying and intaking this information in the hopes that some of it will stick. The vocabulary words I will probably throw into my notebook to add to my Anki flashcard deck later down the road. Really just making the most out of this 30-minute conversation I had with my tutor, trying to suck out every last bit of good info that I can get out of it. And the last and final thing I want to show you guys that I do before every tutoring session is I prep myself for the conversation that I'm going to have with my tutor. As I said before, I kind of know how the flow goes at this point. She always asks me what I did last weekend and what I plan to do for this upcoming weekend. And so I do like to plan a little bit, just so I know what I'm going to say and I'm not sitting there the whole time going, what did I actually do last weekend? So I am going to pull onto the screen this nifty little sticky note. This is actually what I keep off to the side on my screen when I meet with my tutor, and it allows me to quickly reference my notes mid-conversation. I will put little bullet points here about things that I know happened last weekend, things that I know that I have coming up. And then here is my nifty little grammar table that she includes in my Word doc with her. And again, I just want to have these here for reference. If I can throw them into my conversation with her, fantastic. I also include down here some other important grammar structures that I have learned from my own self-studying that I want to be able to implement and use, just helpful reminders. We got more of that down here. And these words down here, we have a little bit of vocab. These are things that have come up frequently in my conversation with her that I, for some reason, have a tough time remembering, so I might include some vocab down there as well. So I'm going to go ahead and throw in some bullet points right here to set myself up for success. The key here with the bullet points for my conversation with her, I need to keep it very simple, because the whole point of practicing conversation with my tutor is that I'm able to do this on the fly when I travel to Korea or when I talk to people in Korean, and I don't want to make it too easy for me where I am just reading off the screen during my tutoring session. That is not going to help me once I am out there in the real world. So really, this is more so just to remind me of what I did last weekend and remind me of what's on the calendar to save time. So with all that in mind, let me write these quick little bullet points for y'all. Okay, so as you guys can see, keeping it really simple, really easy. So last weekend, I went to my boyfriend's company party. I also went with my boyfriend to church for the first time. We're actually doing that tomorrow, but I'll be talking about it in past tense. But yeah, my boyfriend and I are trying out church for the first time. So that'll be a fun topic to discuss with my tutor. And then for the weekend ahead, looking forward, I know we're going to do a major deep cleaning of our home, and we are also going to go on a date night to go see a musical. And that's all I'm going to leave it at. The rest I'm gonna have to improvise when I chat with her in person. And that's pretty much it, you guys. I hope you found this insightful and interesting to watch. This homework could be something that I do all in one night, but typically that's not the case. I'm typically splitting it up across multiple days, especially when I'm doing it after a very busy work day, getting off my 9 to 5. Let me know if with my language learning journey, if you like the study vlogs, if you want me to cover just like particular topics like this video. I feel like I'm still trying to figure out the kind of content I want to include on my channel and what is most helpful or interesting or entertaining to you guys. So any and all feedback is welcome. 그럼 다음에 또 봐요. 안녕히 계세요. Bye guys.